نبدأ إن شاء الله. Are you sure? Okay. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. It's a pleasure inshallah to be here with you tonight. Myself and Dr. Tariq Abuhamdia, we are here inshallah representing Alqarawiyyeen University. Alqarawiyyeen University is a newly established university in the Bay Area since 2020. What we concentrate on is teaching Arabic and teaching Islamic Studies in the Arabic language. So we claim that we will be inshallah the first university in the Americas that will give Islamic degree university in the Arabic language. We have multiple programs that we run: Islamic Studies, Arabic, and also we have Arabic as a second language. Finally, we have Quranic Arabic. Tonight's program, inshallah, is just to give you a presentation about the value of the Arabic language and the importance of the Arabic language. And then we will have a teach-in session with Dr. Tariq, who will give you the first class of Quranic Arabic and the importance of Quranic Arabic for us as Muslims to understand the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, there are many things that we do not know, unfortunately, about our own language, which is the Arabic language, because, as we know, history, when people write history, they write history based on their own understanding of their history, of their own history. So when you have somebody who does not like you to write about your history, they will modify your history to fit their narration. And that's what happened to many of our Islamic heritage and a lot of our Arabic heritage. Tonight, inshallah, we will just be touching upon some of these points. So what we will be talking about is about the history of the Arabic language. We have many scholars now saying that Arabic is really the first language that was on earth, and it came down with Adam alayhi salam as a system. Now, of course, you have to keep in mind that when we speak about history, just like about theories in math and physics, people have theories about languages and about the history of languages. So you will have many scholars who have different opinions of certain things. What we will be touching upon is the facts that we know about the history of the language and what the Arabic language is and where it came from and what is its impact on us. First of all, the Arabic language, as we know it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose it to be the language of the Qur'an. My computer seems to be acting up. Sometimes, technology gives you more trouble than you than you hope for. That's not my tent, by the way. No, it's not my tent. No? Can we go one step back? I remember one time we received a scholar from London into the MCA. And of course, the MCA is in the heart of the Silicon Valley. It was Cat Stevens, actually, Sheikh Yousef. He came to give a khutbah at the MCA, and guess what happens? The microphones break. So he's I'm in the middle of the Silicon Valley, and you guys cannot even keep your microphones straight. So maybe we are just running. There are a lot of translations that are taking place between technologies here. Yeah, inshallah, this works. No? Okay. Shall we try your computer? See. The reason I need the projector is because there are some graphs that I want to show you that are important with information. Otherwise, I could just give you the presentation as we speak. Maybe if we go back to point 0, turn off everything. And just let me do that here too. the easiest thing to do with electronics is just to shut it down and then start fresh. I know, I think somebody clicked a button somewhere. Well, that's the danger of computers. No progress?
No, it's coming up.
Inshallah. Maybe you want to change your input. Okay. Change your input. Like, which HDMI input are you using?
See your computer.
Yeah. Okay. As they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just leave it as is. Okay. So we should be back in business, inshallah. So, of course, to go back, the most important thing about the Arabic language is that it is the language that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose for the final book. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. If it is not in Arabic, you will not be عاقلين. You cannot ta'qil, you cannot understand. So, Arabic is the only language that can be used to express, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to express. Not, of course, Allah does not need to express, to tell us, but for our own understanding, to understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us. And the Arabic language is the tool that can make that happen. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose it for the Qur'an, which means that this is the most important language or the most appropriate language for the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be delivered to mankind as a whole. And we also know the ayah as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Adam the asma, or the names of everything, which means that Adam has known everything that has a name that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted him to know. Adam alayhi salam was taught by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what are these names that Adam alayhi salam was taught? So one other thing about the language, something that many of us did not know or do not know, is that languages die. So some scholars say, tens of languages die every year. They just disappear from the face of the earth. Like if you know, India, for example, has 179 different languages just in India. And it has about 570 different dialects. And those languages, as they are not used, they just disappear. So Arabic is the only language that will not die. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Qur'an in it, and He says, إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. So this language will be protected until the end of time, so it will not die. Of course, it is the most expressive language because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used it to give us the Qur'an. We know Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was given jawami'ul kalim, which means that he says few things, but they have a lot of meanings. And that's the depth of the Arabic language, the ability to use it to give those languages. Many of us wonder what was the impact of the Arabic language on other languages. So there's a doctor whose name was Muhannad Al-Falluji from Al-Iraq. He's a surgeon, was in Britain, and he was interested about the Arabic terminology and medicine. So he spent 24 years of his time trying to find and analyze and dig for those words that are from Arabic into English. And this was the result of his studies. He found 25,000 words in English that come from the Arabic language, which comprises 4% of the language. So 4% of the Arabic language come from Arabic, and that's basically what he could find in that period of time. And as you can see, he has listed them in alphabetical order. So like from A to B, you have this many words and so on. In addition to that, he found 3,000 of the roots of English come from Arabic. As a matter of fact, there's also another study that says even the English names, like George, how would you think that George come from Arabic? How many of you think that George could come from Arabic? Exactly. So George comes, so let's go back in history. Christianity was in Palestine to start with, correct? And also the Copts of Egypt. So there was a name, Gerges. Well, Gerge, and Gerge in Arabic means a young man who is energetic. So Gerge is a young man who is energetic in the Arabic language. So there was this name, Gerges, in Egypt. That was taken with Christianity to Europe, and it became George. So that's how deep this language goes. If we go to Persian or Turkish, 60% of the language comes from Arabic. I was in Turkey one point in time, and one person told me that one of the ministers at one point in time wanted, as you know, that this attempt to wipe out the Arabic language from Turkish has been going on for a long time. As a matter of fact, they have a committee. Of course, before 2000, they have a committee that has been working since the secularists took over, whose role was to replace Arabic words in the Turkish language with other words. So one of the ministers said that he wanted to prevent the Arabic language or wipe out the Arabic words from Turkish. So he said kalimat, arabiyat, mamnu'at, which is of course all Arabic. Another famous journalist, he took the speech of Ataturk and he took the Arabic words out of it, and like 1/3 of it remained. So that's how much of an impact the Arabic language has in our lives. And of course, if we look at the rest of the Islamic world, they use Arabic language on a daily basis, and it's an advantage that they have. So the question is, like, what is the oldest language? And of course, as I said, there are many theories, but we, as Islam teaches us, we have to be people of science, people of knowledge. So we go back to the journalist that's called Scientific America, which is one of the oldest published journals in the United States since 1845. Mainly people who are of high status write in this, and people of science write in this article. So the analysis that they have done says the following. As for the language that is still spoken, several contenders emerge. Hebrew and Arabic stand out. So the Arabic language, of course, we have some political issues in here that have been inserted that I will come and touch upon, inshallah. So the Arabic language is 20,000 years old. It has been, 2000 after Christ, alayhi salatu wasalam, and 18,000 before that. So the age of the Arabic language that we know of is that. This is a very interesting chart that I would like you to take a look at. So the bar on the far left, that is the number of words in the Arabic language. 12,375,000. This was collected by Al-Farahidi in his dictionary in the year of Hijrah 182. So the Arabic language vocabulary is 12 point something million words. The second follower after that comes English with about 600,000. It's not even a million. Followed by French with about 150,000, Russian 130,000, Chinese 123, Turkish 111,000, and look at the last one. Hebrew has only 40,000 words. And that's the Hebrew of today. The Hebrew that people speak in that country. It has only 40,000 words. And this language is a manufactured language. Like there's a committee that makes these words up. Because the original Hebrew died 2,500 years before Christ. It disappeared. This again speaks about the age of the language. So the Arabic is 20,000 years old. We go back to English, 600 years. Now the English that we speak today, which I'm speaking to you with now, this English is only 600 years old. If you go 700 years before this, nobody understands the English. You need scholars who can really try to figure out what kind of words they're trying to say. So English itself is a very new language, and French is the same. They all came, as latecomers. That's why you have a lot of Arabic words in these languages. It's not original languages. And as I said, languages die. So the Old English died in the 14th century, and the Old French died in the 15th century. When we go to the number of roots in the language, you have the Arabic has 16,000 roots compared to Hebrew 2,099. This is a summary about the age. So the Arabic is 20,000 years old. The modern Hebrew is 90 years old only because the old Hebrew died, as I said, 2,500 years ago. Modern English is only 600 years old. Old English died in the 14th century. There was something that, there's one professor called Tayyib Umar. He's from Sudan. He has 2 PhDs, and he taught in Britain in his PhD in English, and he has a PhD in Arabic. He teaches in the kingdom now. And he basically speaks about what's called the great vowel change. So the English language has gone through changes. One of them is what they call the great vowel change, like they changed the vowels. So he says, like before 600 years, the English language was not as we see it today even. So for example, the word name, we all, it's like, what's your name? It used to be nam-e. Nam-e. They didn't have the word name, but then said, this is like, more of a peasant way to speak, so they started to modify it, and nam-e became name with time. What's also interesting, I put, R versus R. You know how the French speak merci, bonsoir. The interesting thing is that, this R came into French not because French had an R, because there was a princess who could not pronounce the R. And when she was speaking, she would speak it like, like in Arabic, how are you, right? So because she had that problem, the whole country changed and they became to speak the R as an R. So that's how, I would say delicate these languages are. Of course, something like this could never happen to Arabic. Now, we also have what's called Syriani, or we hear many times people speak of Syriani, Kildani, Ashuri, Aramaic. And we look at the Muslim scholars and what they said. So Ibn Hazm, he says, this is too hard for me to read, but he says that الذي وقفنا عليه وعلمناه يقينا بأن السريانية والعبرانية والعربية هي لغة مضر وربيعة. Which means that Syriani is really an Arabic language. Kildani is an Arabic language. Aramaic is an Arabic language. There will be more information, inshallah, that will show you why I am saying that. Of course, this is not what I'm saying. This is the data that I have collected. So all these languages, basically, they are representations of Arabic. Mutahhir ibn Tahir al-Maqdisi, he says, لا فرق بين السريانية والعربية إلا في أحرف يسيرة فكأن السريانية سلخت من العربية والعربية سلخت من السريانية. He says there's no difference between Syriani and Arabic, as if it is like they were together and they split apart. So Syriani and Arabic, they are the same. And Syriani most probably has come from the Greeks when they got introduced to the Syrians. So instead of saying Syria, they say Syrian. And this is how basically became the language, or what they thought of the language of the Syrians. Also, Al-Mas'udi says, وَقَدْ وَجَدْنَا قَحْطَانَ سِرْيَانِيَّ اللِّسَانِ. So Qahtan is like one of the oldest Arabic tribes, right? And he was Syriani al-Lisan, which means like basically it's the Arabic language. Also we have him saying وهذه جزيرة العرب كلها مملكة واحدة يملكها ملك واحد ولسانها واحد سرياني. So Syriani is the language of the peninsula, the Arabic peninsula. So Dr. Abdul Majid Al-Tayyib Umar, he argues that Arabic is the first language spoken by humanity, and that the language has descended with Adam alayhi salam, because the Arabic language is a system, it's not just a language. It's not just like, for example, as we have been talking, like, the English, how the English borrows words from here and there, the same with French, the same with other languages, but Arabic is a system, it's a systematic language. So it cannot be manufactured by people. And of course, there are many other things that we'll touch upon, inshallah. This is a historic piece of artifacts that was dating to 950 BC, before Christ, about 1,000 years. And this is written in what's called the Aramaic language. Now, when this was analyzed, so there's a doctor by the name Bahjat Al-Qubaysi. He is one of the people who are very interested in language, and they started to dig and dig and dig, and they started to find all the lies that have been said about the language and the inventions that were told to us about our language and the history of our language. And now basically they are using the artifacts on the land to prove what they are saying. So basically they took this piece of artifact, which is 1,000 years before Isa alayhi salam, and when they analyzed it, they found 86% of it is Old Aramaic that was found in the Arabic dictionary, which means 86% of the Arabic language on this tablet is really Arabic words, which means Aramaic is Arabic, right? He said, there are a few words, like a few percentage points that are used between Hebrew and Arabic, and also that takes another 4%. The reality is, when we speak about Kildani, Ashuri, Syriani, all these are, in reality, they are the Arabic language. Also, some of the studies say that when the West wanted to colonize the Middle East, they had to come with these ideas, like, Aramaic is a different language, Syriani is a different language. And unfortunately, we did not have scholars at the time who can analyze. And people just took it at face value, and our scholars started to repeat that. You could see that, when you go online, many people say the same thing. But the reality is, the facts on the ground, and that's what we're saying. If you look at the facts on the ground, if you look at the writings on the walls of Arabia, Syria, Egypt, you find all of it in these letters that are in reality Arabic language. One thing I would like to bring your attention to, maybe I have it here. I will come to it, inshallah. So now if we say, okay, what was the language of Ibrahim alayhi salam? It was the Arabic language. What was the language of Yusuf, Musa, Hud, Thamud? We know there's Al-Arab al-Ba'ida, like Thamud, Wahud. These are the very, very, very old Arabs, right? So they're Arabs, thousands and thousands of years. I would like to give you some examples that, inshallah can bring the point to home, let's say. We know that Musa alayhi salam, when he ran from Egypt, he went to Madian. And then he found these two ladies who wanted to give water to their flock, and he spoke with them. So what language did he speak? They were Arabs. These girls were Arabs. So what language did he speak with them? He spoke to them with Arabic. Yusuf alayhi salam, when he was in the well and he was taken into Egypt, and he spoke fluently with the people who caught him. And when he went to Egypt, he spoke fluently with the people. And at the time, Egypt was not under the pharaohs, it was under the Hyksos. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an, Al-Malik. He doesn't say the pharaoh. So at the time, there was about 200 years when Al-Hyksos took over Egypt. And that was the time when Yusuf alayhi salam was captured and he came to Egypt. And historians say Al-Hyksos are Arabs too. So all of this, when we speak, there was a map that shows where was Arabic spoken, and that map goes from half of Egypt all the way to Turkey, all the way to Iran, all the way to Yemen. this whole area spoke Arabic. And now if we say, okay, because Ibrahim alayhi salam came from Al-Iraq, and that was part of the Arabic language speaking area. At the time, there was what's called Northern Arabic and Southern Arabic, two Arabic languages, but of course, certain differences among them. Also, another example, we know that Ibrahim alayhi salam, we also always use these stories, right? Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he went to visit his son Ismail, he did not find Ismail. He found his wife. And he asked her, where's your husband? And she said he went hunting, and she was complaining, and he said, غير عتبة بيتك. So what language did Ibrahim alayhi salam speak to the wife of Ismail alayhi salam, who was from Jurhum, which is the Arabic tribe that came when they saw the water. So Ibrahim alayhi salam was speaking to her in the Arabic language. So all these are deductions that will just tell us it was always the Arabic language. So if we look now at the prevalence of Arabic on this map, today we have about 400 million people speaking Arabic on daily, so about 25 countries. So you go all the way from the west of Africa, all the way to the beginning of Iran, all the way to Turkey, all the way to half of Africa. All of these are Arabic-speaking countries. They speak Arabic, like Arabic is the first language in the land, and it is the primary language. We have also another interesting thing. If you look at this map, this is basically the map of the Islamic world. So Arabic language is the only language that is spoken by 2 billion people on a daily basis. Everybody who prays, which language do they pray with? They pray with Arabic. Assalamu alaikum, how are you, kayfa haluk? All this. So Arabic is spoken by 2 billion people on daily basis. And as I said, if we look at China, for example, China has 130 languages. 130 languages and 30 different alphabets. If you look at India, they have 179 languages and 40 different alphabets. While Arabic, 12.3 million words that are spoken by 2 billion people with one alphabet. With one alphabet. And actually, if you just look at the word alphabet, it's alif, ba, ta in Arabic. Alif, ba, ta, alphabet. Correct? So you can see the amount of words in there. Now, what did the scholars say? Of course, we did mention إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. From an Islamic point of view, learning Arabic is a very important thing. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ. So seeking knowledge is a fard. If you look at what Ibn Taymiyyah said, he said that learning Arabic is a wajib. So if you want to understand your deen, for example, people sit and they make dua, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. If you don't understand what that means, you have a handicap. So basically, somehow the Muslim world was convinced that learning English is great, but learning Arabic is not necessary. So we need to change this view that, every Muslim really needs to learn the Arabic language. If you look at this is an artifact that was found on some rocks in Saudi Arabia, and it's written in some letters. If you can you read that on the top? This brother. Can you read the last two words? On the top, very top. هذا بيت. Okay, so he is reading Arabic, but the Arabic is not written in the Arabic that we know. The point is, the Arabic language and the way the Arabic language is written, they are two separate things. So now I used Latin letters to represent Arabic. So it says هذا بيت. But in reality, I'm speaking Arabic, but reading Arabic with a different alphabet. The same thing applies to this rock here. It was written in some alphabets, but it's Arabic. We somehow thought in our minds that if it is not written in Arabic alphabets, it's not Arabic, which is not true. Because the writing of the language has developed over time to the letters that we have today, but it was not the case all the time. So before, this scripture that you see here on the right, it says, إن مردان خلم نبدد ملك بابل أتوت مع ربي رئيس كي تنم بفلس تلو بادية لعق. So somebody was basically registering what the king did and who was with him and why they came to that area, and they wrote it in the. So if you understand how to translate these letters in the current day language, say, okay, this is Arabic. But it was written in a different way, just like it had the bait on top. Of course, this is the Arabic alphabet that we know today, but as I showed you, it has basically grown over time. It was not the same all the time. It has become to be this way. Who can read this? Okay, I rest my case. So you see, he read, it's not here. So he was able to read, that whole paragraph, even though it has no dots at all. But that's the power of the Arabic. So at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, this is how Arabic used to be written. This is how Arabic used to be written. And then from that point on, they started to add, for example, what happened, because many people entered Islam who are not Arabs, and they started to read the Qur'an, they started to make mistakes. Like there's a very famous example that usually they see, إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَرِيءٌ مِّنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَرِيءٌ مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ وَرَسُولُهُ. So this ayah in Tawbah says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clear from the people who disbelieve, and also his messenger is clear from them. So one person read it, وَرَسُولِهِ. He just put a kasra under the lam of Rasulihi, so it became that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clear from the non-believers and from his prophet. Walayadu billah. So when one of the Sahaba heard this man reading this way, he's like, we have to do something. So Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali came to, if you look on the left side, this is the first tashkil that they had. So like a dot on the top used to be fatha, a dot on the bottom used to be kasra, and a dot on the left used to be dhamma. This is how tashkil started. And then so they added the dots, like noon and ba will have like on top and bottom, ya will have it, tatha. But as you can see, we Arabic readers could read without any dots. It's very easy. A first year or a first grade student can do that. And of course now, this is on the right hand side, I just put the new tashkil or the fatha and the dhamma that we are all familiar with. So now to go back to what I started with, that there was certain people who are trying to lie about the history. So Dr. Bahjat al-Qubaisi, he says that there was a person by the name Driver. He stole a whole dictionary from that was written in 1830. He added some Aramaic Arabic to it, and he changed the name of the whole dictionary. I mean, he stole the whole dictionary. And he said, okay, this is the Hebrew and English lexicon of the Old Testament. I mean, he stole the whole dictionary, and he claimed that this belongs to the Hebrews. But in reality, it's a theft. And this is just an example of what kind of history has been changed. Also, I would like to share with you about the Hebrew language. So in 1871, there was a scholar from Austria. His name was Solitzer. He invented the term Semitic languages. So there is no such thing as Semitic languages. These are all Arabic, old Arabic languages. So because again, they were building this identity for that country. They just basically rewrote the history, and unfortunately, as I said, this is 1871. We did not have scholars who could go and dig and analyze what they were doing. So he renamed the old Arabic language as the Semitic languages. The Hebrew letters, actually, those letters that you see in Hebrew, they are not Hebrew letters. They are Aramaic Canaanite letters. These square letters, Arabic, they are Arabic letters they used to be used by the Aramaics and the Adnanites. So they came and they stole them and they said these are Hebrew letters. And of course, by analysis, all of this was discovered, but they have basically lied to the whole world, and they said, these are our letters. As a matter of fact, the only available, according to Dr. Bahjat, is that the only available scripture of the Torah was found in 950 after Christ. There was no such a thing available. And these square letters, they are found in Egypt mostly. But as I said, they were stolen and they're called now the Hebrew letters. So some of the interesting things about the Arabic languages, because again, as I said, this is it's a system. It's not just something that somebody can invent. So if we take a sample word, this is the word called, who can read this? غارقة, which means he sunk. Right? غارقة means he sunk. So look at the depth of Arabic. So the letter gha in Arabic mostly is connected with things that disappear, like غيب, غيم, غيوب, غمة, غباء, less intelligence. So غين is usually tied to things that disappear, like غيب, غيب, غيوم. Ra is a letter that's usually connected with things that repeat, takrir, like takrir. Even the letter is it's just a repetition. And if you look at the qaf in Arabic, it's a letter that's usually connected with mutraqa, at-tariq, qaddum, something that bangs. So now let's take the word and try to analyze it to see, when no human can do this. So ghariqa, when a person sinks, what happens to them? The first thing they do, they disappear. Ghain. And it keeps going and going, ra. And then it hits bottom, qaf. So if you just take a word and analyze it, you could come up with all this information. Can a human being do this? It's an impossibility. But you could see, and every letter in Arabic actually has something like that. As a matter of fact, when people who learn tajweed, in tajweed there are some huruf or some letters that are called, these are the upper class letters, and other letters are like the lower class letters. And usually these, like for example, if you take sin is one from the lower ones, and it's usually connected with low class words like sariq, sarsari. And if you take sad, it's huruf al-isti'la, like as-siddiq, as-sidq, as-sadaqa, as-sadaqa. All of these, like al-isti'la. So this is every letter in the Arabic language has these characteristics. And you can find a bunch of words that are connected with that you can detect these things. So this is just an example to share with you. For example, in English you say love. In Arabic, look how many levels of love there is. So in Arabic you say, the first level is al-hawa. The second is al-sabwa, al-shaghaf, al-wajd, al-kalaf, al-ishq, al-najwa, al-shawq, al-wasab, al-istikana, al-wud, al-khulla, al-gharam, al-huyam. All these are like different levels of love. As it comes closer to the heart of the person is with huyam, which means he's kind of crazy with that person that he loves. So inshallah, this gives you some touch of the Arabic language and the beauty of the Arabic language. And I would like to call upon you, inshallah, go investigate, because these are just great things that I personally found out only in the last year, and I'm just really getting very interested in sharing that information with you. So what we'll do now, inshallah, Brother Tariq, he is one of the instructors in Alqarawiyyeen schools, and we are offering a class, and that class is going to be the Quranic Arabic. So he will be giving you a glimpse of that class, and if you are interested, inshallah, maybe you can sign up with us on the table back there, so that when the class is given, you could come and attend. So I turn the floor, inshallah, to Dr. Tariq. Okay. You can connect directly. Hopefully you will not have issues like that.
يمشي الحال في جهتين يمكن اوقف
لا اريح لك يعني.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاك الله خيرا دكتور يوسف. Very illuminating and informative talk. And the conclusion, what's the conclusion of all this that he presented, all this information? Anyone can just give us a single line conclusion for what he said? The conclusion is Arabic language is okay, yeah, which means that it's a divine language because Adam alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after creating Adam, he did what? The Qur'an telling us وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Adam language. That's the meaning of وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. He taught him the names of all the names of everything, which mean the language. And the conclusion is that that language is Arabic. And beside all the evidence that been listed, there is also a logical one, because Arabic contains the largest number of phonetics, or actually all the phonetics. If you can speak Arabic, you can speak any language, or you can pronounce any letter, you can pronounce any word. Arabic contains all the phonetics in all the languages, all the sounds. And languages in history go down in phonetics. And as a human, you can never, that's impossible, generate a sound that you did not hear. Can any of you generate a sound that he never heard? Can you generate, just invent a new letter that you didn't hear before? And is this a possibility? No. This is why deaf people cannot speak. They cannot generate words or sounds. So if that is the case, then how did humans invent the letter Dad, for example? And Dad only exists in Arabic. So if the only language that contains this sound is Arabic, then is no preceding language. And people didn't really invent it, and it came with Adam alayhi salam. So that is how deep, and this is why. So it's a divine language. So the Qur'an and the Quranic Arabic has many characteristics. So it came with this divine language. It's reinforcing it and reinvigorating it again after thousands of years. So Quran is considered by all the Arabic language scientists as the most and the finest text of Arabic. There is no better text in the Arabic language than the Quran. Even if you ask a Christian scholar of Arabic, he will tell you that no, there is no actually any poetry or any literature text in Arabic that is more fine in beauty and in meaning and in depth than the Qur'an. In addition to that, Qur'an is considered the baseline for the grammar of Arabic language. So all these rules that been documented, actually been documented years after the revelation of the Qur'an, because as Dr. Yousef said, people started to make ujma, started to skew the pronunciation and the meaning of the words. So then the caliphates decided that, okay, we should document the rules of the language and teach people the rules and the grammar of the language. And this is when that process started. So what was the baseline? What was the reference? It was the Qur'an. The Qur'an is the reference for the grammar of the Arabic language. And it has a very well distinct, the Quranic Arabic has very well distinct structure. So you can easily, and in a second, know that this is something from the Quran or it's something else, even though you do not memorize that. But if I give you part of a verse, you would tell immediately that this is from the Quran. Why? Because of the unique structure. This unique structure never been used in poetry, never been used in a novel, never been used in a prose or anything. That's very unique to the Quran. The structure is very unique. The other thing is how concise and how to the point. How concise and how to the point. So if you read into the dialogues that are in the Quran, you will find that there is no actually unnecessary repetition in the Quran at all. And sometimes there is lots of repetition in the Quran. Like what? Like فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. That's like repetition. But what is the purpose of that repetition? It has a mental purpose of awakening the mind and linking that verse to, you need to go and think. You need to go back and think. But when it comes to dialogues, you will find that there is no repetition in dialogues. For example, if we come in the Quran to the dialogue between Musa and Al-Khidr. قال له موسى هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا قال إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا وكيف تصبر على ما لم تحط به خبرا قال ستجدني إن شاء الله صابرا ولا أعصي لك أمرا قال فإن اتبعتني فلا تسألني عن شيء حتى أحدث لك منه ذكرا. Very concise, very precise. You exactly understand what happened, and if you want to write it, you will never be able to write it that way. And then after that it says فانطلق. So you understand what? You understand from all this that actually yes, the Khadr agreed to what Moses offered, and Moses agreed to what the Khadr asked him to do. You get this from the context. You get this from how the verses. And if you look into other dialogues in the Quran, for example, the dialogue between Ibrahim and Namrud and Ibrahim and his father, and Ibrahim alayhi salam and his people, you will find that conciseness is everywhere in the Quran. Right to the point, right to the meaning, no unnecessary, no redundancy in the Quran. And also the Quran is very sensitive to tashkil, the example that Dr. Yousef said about وَرَسُولِهِ وَرَسُولُهُ. That's very clear how sensitive that those sounds at the end of the word, they convey meaning. And that is not by accident, and that is not by the invention of Arabs. That's how the language is, because how you put a sound at the end of the word, it puts the logic and it puts the meaning of the words together. And for a full understanding and mastery of the language, it's not only enough to just get the vocabulary and the words. You need also to go deeper in the grammar. So this is the purpose. This is the purpose of, if you want to study Quranic Arabic, it's not just, okay, I'm gonna just learn how to read the Quran and know the meanings of the word, and just gonna connect those together, and then I'm gonna understand the meaning of the Quran. You're just getting on the surface. You're just getting the smell of the Quran if you're doing that. If you really want to go and get into the meaning, then we need to go and understand the language and the structure of the language, and more than that. And that is very essential for the identity of any Muslim community. If we don't have that, then we are losing our religion. And this is how connected Quran, or how connected Arabic language to us. It's part of our identity as a community. If there is a Muslim community where there is no one understands Arabic, then certainly that Muslim community is missing something of its identity. That's very important. So, how is Quranic Arabic different from just reading any text in Arabic? The language beauty and the style, the contrasts, the rhymes. The Quranic rhyme is very distinct, right? قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ. It all rhymes with قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. You have all that. It rhymes. It's like a poetry, but it's not a poetry. And that was one of the difficult things for Arabic. They could see that, oh, this is very musical to the ear, but it's not actually a music. And this is a fun fact that one of my uncles, who's actually a linguistics scientist, and he's been professor of linguistics for maybe 40 or 45 years, he once did a whole research on the relationship between ahkam al-tajweed in the Quran from linguistics point of view and the music scales. Okay, like the ghunna and the idhar and the ikhfa and the mudud. Okay, and how this comes in agreement with the musical scales and the music science. And surprisingly, he found that these ahkam in the Quran are in full contrast with the musical skills. Yet, it's like a music for them. It's very musical. It's very pleasant to hear to the ear, which means that no human cannot make it, because the music that the humans made is actually different. And finally, again, saying that the good thing here is that most of the vocabulary, 80% or 85% of the vocabulary in the Quran are actually used in day-to-day Arabic. It's used in day-to-day Arabic. So understanding the Quranic Arabic actually gives you a good introduction to the whole. It's like the gateway to Arabic in general as a whole. If you want just superficial understanding, we just learn some vocabulary. But if you want to go deeper, we need to get to the structure. This is a way how I visualize the difference between Latin and Arabic, or English, let's say, and Arabic language. I see that English is like you are forming by building blocks. When you form sentences, you put the words together in a way like you're building blocks. So it's difficult. However, in Arabic, it's like you are forming with a clay. You can make rounds. You can make any shape you want. You can make curves. You can make all that. And there is actually something in the Arabic language itself called a naht. So that you can adapt words in a way. You can sculpturing the meaning in Arabic. It's very powerful, basically. You can shape anything you want in Arabic language. In English, you don't have that capacity. It's like also, in English, you are in the digital world. Okay, so you can come close to things, but not 100%. You have that difference. But Arabic is the actual analog thing. Or in coloring map, in coloring map, you would see that actually Arabic has the full spectrum, everything in the spectrum. But English is like a 256 color map. So yeah, you get a lot of colors and very small differences between a lot of them, but no, you don't get really everything. You're close, you can imitate a lot of things, you can imitate a lot of pictures, but you don't have the full spectrum. You cannot with only a color map of 256 colors portray everything outside we see in the outward, right? We can only get that if we get the full spectrum, the full natural light spectrum, and that is actually Arabic. 12 million or 13 million words. Can you imagine? And it has the capacity to keep generating words. Arabic is well structured. It's like math. It's like math. And as much as math is simple and logical, Arabic is also simple and logical. Every single word in Arabic can either be a noun or a verb or harf, tool. There is nothing else. So everything goes down to these. You can open the Qur'an and start a word by word, and you can classify it. Oh, this is harf, this is a noun, this is a verb. Every single one. Also, Arabic follows the scales. Everything has a scale. Every word has a scale. And those scales go down. The simplest scale that creates everything is the root fa'ala. That's the basic one. And then from that, we can bring any word and we say, oh, it actually follows that scale or this scale. For example, la'iba, which means played, it follows the scale fa'ala. Yal'ab, which means is playing, follows the scale yaf'al. Yal'abun follows the scale yaf'alun. Any word, you can bring any verb or any noun and get back to some scale and say, oh, it's following that scale. So there is a machine that generates things out of meaning for us. From something, we can generate a verb. From something, we can generate a verb. And in general, most of the verbs are 3 letters in origin. Very few are 4 letters in origin. And less even are 5 letters in origin. And almost there is no verb that actually in its origin, it's like finest, simplest form is like 6 letters. So this is also another form of simplicity. That okay, with the 3 letters you can form verbs. And some verbs, especially the command verb, the command tense, this is not in English, it's just a single letter. Okay, tashkil and i'rab. So it's very difficult to find a word in English that means tashkil. You cannot. You go translation, you go for translation, you need to get, so tashkil by itself means formation. But when we mean, what we mean by tashkil in the Arabic language doesn't really mean formation. What we mean by tashkil is using the short vowels at the end of the words. Like little motions, if we can say. Like we move the end of the word a little bit. That is the tashkil. There is nothing like this in English or in Spanish or in Chinese. So it's very unique thing. And i'rab means explaining the meaning, pointing to the meaning. Very unique word also. And they say that Arabic is called Arabic from the word araba, and araba or a'raba means explained very well. And this is why whenever you see the word Arabic in the Qur'an, you will find that بِلِسَانٍ عَرَبِيٍّ مُبِينٍ. Very explaining, pointing to the meaning, very meaningful. The name of the language itself means explanation, meaning, depth in meaning. This is very important, tashkil, because it explains and the meaning depends a lot on it. And I'm going to give a few examples soon, but it's enough to know that one of the original old texts of tafsir, like Tafsir al-Tabari, for example, if you open Tafsir al-Tabari, you rarely find that any scholar these days making a halaqa in a masjid or something for people who are not specialized teaching from Tafsir al-Tabari. Why? Because you open Tafsir al-Tabari, it is a book of grammar. You'll find the word by word, this is the explanation, this is the grammar of this word, this is the structure, blah, 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 and this is the meaning, and then he moves to the next word. So this is important because the meaning, how you explain the Quran, relies on tashkil and i'rab. I'm going to give here example of how the meaning can be very different. So let's go to the first sentence. The first sentence, who can read the first sentence for us? أكل الأسد الغزالة. Who can translate that to us? The lion ate the deer. Okay, who can read the second sentence? أكل الأسد الغزال. What's the meaning of that? The same thing? Yes, actually the second one means now. So the second one means what? The second one means the deer ate the lion. Is this logical? Yeah. So you see how important tashkil here, because you flip the meaning. Now there is another example directly from the Quran. This is famous. وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ. What does this mean? Allah, his Lord, Ibrahim got tested by his Lord, right? وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى, or his Lord tested Ibrahim. وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ. The second one, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبَّهُ. That's totally wrong, right? Because it's like Ibrahim tested his Lord, and that, of course, not the meaning. So you can see how important that, and how deep this can take you into or inside the Quran. Another very interesting example, and this also shows us how understanding the language and how the depth and the beauties and the styles of the Quran also very relevant to the rules of our lives. To the rules of our lives. This is from the beauty of the Quran. So here, this is the verse 6 from Surah Al-Ma'idah, and every Muslim should know this verse. Why? Because this is the verse that tells us or teaches us the wudu. Yeah? يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين. Okay. So let's go into the English translation. So this will show you the weakness of English here. So English translation, all believers, when you rise up for prayer, wash your faces, your hands up to the elbows, wipe your heads. And the translation says, wash your feet to the ankles. Okay? Here, if you notice, I pointed برؤوسكم, that word, and then there is wa, and then أرجلكم, and then إلى الكعبين. So برؤوسكم means with your head, and then wa means and then أرجلكم means feet. So if you see, okay, so the original text has with your heads, wipe with your heads, or wipe your heads, and then it says your feet. Where did the translator brought the word wash again here? Because it says wipe with your heads, and then there is feet, your feet. How could the translator understand that no, it's actually and wash, not and wipe, for example, your feet? Anyone can tell? Arjulakum. Okay, so here, arjulakum, the fatha on the lam, la, arjulakum, it means that and corresponds here to waghsilu. Okay, why? Because biru'usikum is majrura. Biru'usikum has kasra. If the waw here is really making conjunction to biru'usikum, it will be wa arjulikum. So this is how beautiful and how deep. But why did the Quran put it that way? The Quran put it that way because it puts the order. So you start with this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And the last thing is feet. But we don't really wipe our feet. We have to wash them. So to refer it back to wash them, so the tashkil at the end of the word has to match the tashkil of the washing things. And this is how we get the order and we get what we exactly have to do. So you see, this is, if we want to get, like the Quran is like what? It's like an ocean. And you want the gems. Yeah, Jazakallah khairan. This is a very interesting, good and deep question. And the short, let's start with the dictionaries. Yes, there are official institutions, Arabic official institutions that take care of producing and maintaining Arabic dictionaries, which are termed as معاجم اللغة, and those are مجامع اللغة العربية. So I don't know how we can translate مجمع, but مجمع maybe is like the compound of the language. There are official مجامع. There is the Jordanian مجمع. There is the Egyptian مجمع. There is one in there is one in Damascus. Those are, let's say, the oldest three. There are now, I think, in Saudi Arabia and different places. Now the problem is how widespread and how popular and how aware the Arabic speakers are of. Unfortunately, our culture, as Dr. Yousef described, is not proud of its language. We don't have that same pride in Arabic among Arabic speakers, the same way they have when they learn second language. That's like an inferiority complex there. So it's like you're carrying gold, but you think it's dirt, or you think it's nothing, actually. You know, if you have that, if you master Arabic, if you know Arabic, you're really carrying gold, and you should be very proud of it. But this is not the understanding. Now, comes to the production of science in your language. This is very important. I'll give you an example. If you want to get a degree, Ph.D. in mathematics, from a US university here, from respected ones, requirement to graduate, before you graduate, you need to either finish German language requirement or Russian language requirement. German or Russian. Why? Because the majority of old mathematics production literature was in either Russian or in German. You want to go back to the original text, right? You need to know and understand German and understand Russian. So it's requirement before you graduate with a PhD in mathematics to know German or Russian, at least. Okay? So this is how deep and important language is for anyone who wants to learn any subject. So imagine if you want to study Sharia or if you want to study Islam, you know, you really cannot make it without. Like Arabic is like Arabic to Islam is like mathematics to engineering. Okay? Or maybe we should say it the other way. We should say that math to engineering is like Arabic to Islam. So that's not. Why we don't have that? We have very little production in Arabic. And again, it comes to that inferiority, I believe, inferiority complex that we suffer from. I found that most of the universities in the Arab world, except very, very small exceptions, for the graduate studies, the student must write his thesis or dissertation in English, okay, or in French. That's like 95% or maybe 98% of the universities in the Arab world, okay? However, in Iran, students write their dissertations, PhD dissertations in Persian, okay? And I've seen it. They must write it in Persian. Okay? So that's how, that indicates what? They have a pride in themselves. In Japan, Korea, China, all of them, they have scientific journals for those writers who are researchers and they only write in that language, the Chinese, Korean, or Japanese. Unfortunately, we thought as Arabs that we cannot reach globality or like a global reach unless we just write in English. Okay? But you're losing a lot. You're making science less accessible to the original language speakers. You're developing that inferiority complex, and you're losing your language, right? Because you can't learn science using your language anymore. Though Arabic, as I said, has the ability to chew new words and produce new words all the time. And like tilfaz. You can make verb, talfaza. And you can make noun, at-talfaza. Okay? And you can make all kind of things. You can just use the nahat, sculpturing of words in Arabic, and produce anything you want. You can bring any new thing and do it. Like for example, barmaj. Barmaj is a 4-letter verb, but that's not really original thing. It's actually from Persian origin, barnama, and barnama means tables or organized tables in Persian. And when Arabs learned Dawaween, Umar ibn al-Khattab, he got it from Persia. The idea and the organization of Dawaween, and that word came from that, and then we got the word barnamij or barmaja, okay, from that. So we have the ability, and and barmaja, and we have mubarmij, a guy who's coding, and we have yubarmij. You create anything. You just get. In English, you don't have that. I'll give you example. I'll give you a very clear example, which is the word taqwa. In Arabic, taqwa, muttaqi, muttaqin, yattaqi, ittaqi. You have all that. It's all connected. It comes from the same root. In English, there is piety. Is there a verb from piety? There is no verb from piety. Well, can you tell someone using like the origin of piety to be pious? You have to him like be pious. Right? You cannot, right? So if we want to say to someone, okay, ittaqillah in English, we tell him fear God. But you bring piety and you bring fear God, you find that actually there is quite a difference in meaning between fear God and piety. Right? Does it bring the same thing? Does it bring the same meaning to you, fear God and piety? Actually no, right? But but in Arabic, no, we have all that machine working actually. We have a full linguistic machine able to bring new words and make full meaning for you in your original language that brings all those imaginations and all those ideas and bring them together. That's a whole different level. We don't use it.
Same thing applies, for example, if you take the word syrup in English, which means syrup, which comes from the word sharab. So now instead of using sharab, we use syrup. Even if you go back home, they want to use syrup instead of sharab. But in Arabic, in English, it's syrup, period. But in Arabic, shariba, yashrabu, sharaban, mashruban, musharraban, tons of words that come out of it. To go back to the question, everything starts with the political will. If you don't have the political will, you cannot get anything done. So as societies, this is where we are suffering from. I taught in Jordan, I taught in the Emirates, and I was supposed to teach people in English. That was the requirements. You should teach them in English. And then when you teach them, you realize that their English is this much, which means they don't understand. So you're taking the key from them and telling them learn, but you take the key. The key is the language. So they can understand in Arabic. So if I teach them in Arabic, they will learn. But when I teach them in English, they will not learn. Also, as Dr. Tariq suggested, all these universities, when you write a paper, it has to be written in English. Why? I mean, you can program in Chinese. The Arabs never thought to program in Arabic. So like the French program in French, the Japanese program in Japanese, computerized, all of that stuff in their language. Only the Arabs are just not doing it. So the will is really important. I was in one of the Arab countries, and the Minister of Education gave his speech in English. The French ambassador he was in one European country, and the French speaker came to give his speech, and he gave it in English. The French ambassador left because he was supposed to give it in his country's language. So this is where we have the problem. So the goal of our presentation today is that we have to be proud of what we have, because we have the gems. What they have, the low quality stones. But instead of us appreciating what we have, we just have to accept that what we have is worse stone than the stones that they have. So inshallah, because it's coming like to 10:20, we'd like to thank you inshallah for being here, for having the patience. Inshallah, turn it to Dr. Tariq to give us the dua.
Jazakallah khairan. Final word is that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِنَّمَا الْعَرَبِيَّةُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ. So you can attribute yourself to that honor of being like Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam by just learning the language. And our father Ismail alayhi salam, and the father of our Prophet alayhi salam, he's from the Arab al-Ariba, those Arabs who learned the language, And if you look into the Arab worlds, the 400 million that Dr. Yousef described, you will find that tribal lineage way, they're not Arabs. They're not from the peninsula. I don't believe that my lineage is goes back to the tribes in the peninsula, or And maybe most of us, Islam is what carried that language. And you will find that where Islam stopped is where people really fought it harshly, and the thing that they attacked was the language. In Turkey, when they wanted to attack Islam, they started with the language. In Algeria, when they wanted to attack Islam,